Hello, this is Raymond Aaron, but this amazing interview is not about me. It's about my dear friend, Jack Canfield. And if you don't know who Jack Canfield is, if you're one of the few on the planet who doesn't know what he is, let me just give you some of his amazing credentials. He's written a couple hundred books, which is shocking. He is the creator, the co-creator of the whole Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books. He has a Guinness record. It's actually hanging behind him, and you'll be able to see it in the background. You know, if you have one book in the New York Times top 10, that's a miracle. If you have two, it's like unheard of. He had seven. There was a week in which there were seven chicken soup books out of 10 on the New York Times top 10 bestseller list. He's also written a book outside of the chicken soup series that we're going to be talking about, and that's his amazing Success Principles, which I actually had a part in. And then he did 10 years later the update to the Success Principles, which was amazing. But now he's come up with a brand new thing that I've never, ever heard. No one's ever done this. He's created a workbook, and I want to know all about it. Jack, hello.
Hey, Raymond. Good to be with you, my friend.
Yes, it's always good to be with you. Do you know that I have a wife, of course, and a mother and two daughters and a granddaughter, and even my cat's a female. So I don't have any men in my life, and I think of you as my brother, and I just
Uh,
am honored to have played with you for all these years.
Thank you.
We started to know each other. How old is your youngest now?
28.
28. That's how long we've known each other.
Yeah.
28 years. Wow. And I love going on vacation with you twice every year. And I love that we're in Transformational Leadership Council that you created. In fact, because you created it, the movie The Secret was filmed at our club meeting because all the top transformational leaders were there. We've just had a wonderful intertwining of lives, and it's been a joy for almost 3 decades for me. And this is yet another intertwining. We get to I get to interview you on your amazing new book. So there's been lots of famous books out there, but nobody's ever created a workbook. So what's the workbook for?
Well, I won't say nobody's ever created a workbook. I mean, I've seen a few, but not very many. Look, what happened is I began to notice that people that took our live seminars and came to our coaching program were really producing amazing results, better than people who simply read the book by itself. Now, there are a number of people who become millionaires. In fact, one triple billionaire in Thailand, and he credits the book and The Secret as the two things that got him to where he is today. He was literally homeless on the beach in Phuket at the age of 19, and now at 39, he's worth $3 billion. And he said it's all because of the book. And there's a guy in the Philippines who read the Success Principles. And I came back 2 years later, and he was homeless when I met him. I gave him a copy of my book and a free ticket to my seminar. And I just had a wonderful conversation with him the night before. And I came back, and he walks in with this blue blazer with this gold medallion, 12 people behind him, all in these polo shirts with the same medallion, like his entourage. And I said, John, what happened to you? He said, I got really successful. I said, what? How? He said, I read your book and I did everything in it. I said, nobody's done everything in it. He said, no, Jack, you had 64 principles. I did every single one. So I know that this stuff works. He's now the #1 motivational speaker in the Philippines. He has a condo, a house at the beach, another house. He has 3 exotic cars. He's taken about every seminar you can possibly imagine on the universe. And he's really his own radio show. He wears 2 Rolexes, one on each hand. He's a little into bling. I'm not so much into that. And he was wearing gold Doc Martens shoes, if you can imagine that, when he walked into the place. But the point being that for most people, they read the book and they go, wow, great stories, very inspirational. The techniques make sense. The principles make sense. Then they put it on their bookshelf. And basically I say, well, that gives you great self-esteem, but it doesn't really help you grow yourself into becoming successful. So I decided to take all the exercises that we're using in our workshops, in our coaching program, put them between the covers of a book, along with enough information that if you didn't read the first Success Principles book, you could still go through the principles. Or 17 of the 64 principles. They're the core basic principles. They're enough to double your income and double your time off in 2 years or less for anybody who, for anybody who wants to do that. So then we said, let's beta test this. Let's find out if it really works as a workbook, because then we can have our thoughts about it. So we got about 30 or 40 people together, and over a 6-month period said, go through the workbook and then tell us what happened. And everybody had major breakthroughs. So we know it works. So now basically we're simply saying to people, if you want to take your life from where it is to where you want it to be, and I don't care if you're making 30,000 a year or $1 million a year, you can take it and double it, triple it, whatever you want to do. And that's not just for income, it's for better health, better relationships, have more fun in your life, more meaning, more fulfillment, more impact if you're more interested in, social impact and so on and so forth. So basically, I'm very excited about this. And the book just released today. I went on Amazon. It went from number 24,000 yesterday to number 400 today. It's number 20 in the self-help category. And it's only 11 o'clock in California. So as we record this, so basically, I'm very excited about what's happening with the book. And already people are saying amazing things about it.
Wow. Now you just slurred past something because you've said it so often over 12 years, but it's gigantic. I want you to talk about it. Double your income and double your time off. That's a gigantic statement that doesn't deserve to be just thrown into a paragraph. It deserves to stand on its own. Tell me
All
about that.
right. Big bold print headline.
Yes.
Toronto Globe and News, whatever. Anyway, so here's the deal. Everyone I know who sets that as a goal, if they do the principles, they achieve it. I have
Wow.
one guy who owns a lumber yard in the British Columbia area, and he's already a millionaire, and he now takes about 3 months off a year. He was not doing that before. He took the principles, went back, and he started teaching his people in his lumber yard these principles. These are all blue collar workers, guys that come to work on motorcycles and in trucks, pickups, and so forth. And they're all saying, well, if you're really serious, we should be making our doors over here and not carrying them over there because we're wasting a whole lot of time. This should go there. He won the best lumber yard of the year award in Canada a couple of years ago. His major contractor, another guy, Doug Whittle, who he turned on to all these principles, took the same principles and applied them. He now spends 6 months a year down in Mexico and 6 months a year in the summer months building in Vancouver area. And so the reality is that it's doable. It's doable for anybody. You and I know John Assaraf, and John, is an amazing guy. And he used to be mainly making his income with Remax, and he had a franchise in Indiana. And I went in there along with Bob Proctor and Mark Victor Hansen, and we did a one-day workshop, and we taught these same principles. And that year, I think it was 78% of the people doubled or tripled their income in that first year.
78% doubled or tripled their income.
And within 2 years, 85% did. And the franchise went to $1 billion franchise within 3 years. I won't say what John's income is, but it's right now it's all passive because he's living in Southern California, but it's millions of dollars a year because of the systems that got set up and we taught these principles. So whether you're a salesperson or you're an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're a coach, whatever, these principles work. They're universal. As you remember in the first book, I interviewed 75 of the most successful people in North America. Generals in the Army, Olympic athletes, professional athletes, movie stars, top salespeople, CEOs of companies, the top speakers and so forth. Looking at what is it that makes these people so successful. What I found across the board is they were all using the majority of these principles. I wanted to make sure they weren't just something that was idiosyncratic to me. Maybe I was special, whatever. But the reality is I've taught these to Vietnam veterans with PTSD, people coming back from the Iraq War, people that had terrible childhood, sexually abused, homeless people, like I just mentioned another one. His sister gave him a copy of my book for Christmas. He was in a halfway shelter for drug addiction. He looked at me on the cover and I'm standing there in a suit and he goes, what the hell can a white guy in a suit teach me? And so he just forgot it. And one night he was on guard duty on the door of the rehab center, the halfway house. And he said, well, I got nothing better to do. I'll start reading the book. He got totally hooked. Within 2 months, he was out of that halfway house, started a lawn care business and also a self-defense business, and now is independently, not wealthy, but he's a very successful entrepreneur, someone who was homeless and a drug addict before.
Wow. Now you said something and I want to get more information on it. You said you have enough information in the workbook that they don't have to buy your book. Is it better to just buy the workbook, or is it better to buy the workbook and your book?
I would say buy both, and then take the 17 chapters and which are based on 17 principles in the book, and we tell you at the beginning of each chapter in the workbook, if you want to go deeper, read that chapter for more information, and it'll get your head more around it. There's enough in the workbook just to do it as a standalone, but if you use the two together, plus there are more principles in the book. Once you get through the workbook, you're going to be so hooked about how it's impacting your life, you're going to want to do the other principles for sure.
Okay, so the workbook has your 17 best, let's say, or the most common, the ones that are usable by everybody.
The most important. People
Most
often say,
important.
Jack, if there was one principle, if you could say, what's the most important
That
principle?
was my question.
Well, I always say, if you could only keep one organ in your body, which one would you keep, right? And without your lungs, your heart is useless. Without your heart, your lungs are useless, But now here's the truth. The 17 are like the heart, the lungs, the kidney, the spleen, the brain, all that good stuff. You can live without your little finger. You can live without your opposable thumb. It's a lot harder. You can't open jars as easily, right? So there are principles that you can get by without doing. However, if you have all of them, if you're totally healthy, you got everything in your body. I mean, we can lose our appendix, we still can live. We can lose one kidney and we can still live. But the quality of life isn't as necessarily as wonderful. So I would say, a lot of people complained that the first book was a little too thick. Some people call it the big white Bible. I didn't expect people to get through that, except do one principle a week for a year and you're going to get through the book. With this one, if you did one principle a week, it would take you about 3 or 4 months and you'd get through it all. Many people are doing one principle every 2 days. And so it's, what would it be, 34 days a month? Here we are, many of us are locked down in our apartments. We're not supposed to be going out. We have all that extra time that used to be commuting. We now can basically work on ourselves. I tell people you should be meditating more, exercising more, and reading more, and watching, not TV, but maybe YouTube videos and TED Talks and things like that to educate yourself. Because right now, a lot of people are having difficulty earning money. A lot of people aren't. You and I have figured out how to do that online and so forth. But the reality is, for a lot of people, at least be getting yourself ready so when you hit the ground running coming out of this, you're ready to go because you've got your mindsets correct, you've got all your planning done, you've got all your networks built up, your mailing list. You can clean up a lot of stuff during this period of time. So I say take this time and use it productively as a student. One thing that's really cool, I read that Isaac Newton, who discovered gravity, or at least wrote about it for the first time,
He
he did
discovered
that.
the universal law of gravity.
Yeah, he did that during the plague. He was sequestered in his room at the university and was not able to go out and meet with students. He invented calculus during the plague. So we can be very creative during this time. It's not as bad as the plague was. We're a lot more intelligent about what to do about it. But be creative. Use this time productively.
The Success Principles Workbook.
Yeah, the Success Principles Workbook looks like this. Notice it's much thinner than the original book. And it's got, what's cool about this, there's exercises, there's places to write, there's questions that take you through. And when you get through that series of questions, you've had aha experiences. There's places to capture all that. There are what we call make it a habit worksheets. It's one thing to know to do something. We know we should floss our teeth. Most people still don't do it. I do it every night. It's like I can't not go to bed. It's just something I do, like brushing my teeth, getting up in the morning. And so the reality is that you want to do that as a habit. So we have a way to ingrain these things so they become Velcro to the subconscious mind. There's all kinds of worksheets you can do that if you just read the book, you go, that's cool. But it says, stop, do this. In fact, there's several places where it says, if you're still reading and you didn't fill out that worksheet, turn the page and go back. This is not, someone once said something really brilliantly. They said, success is a marathon, not a sprint. And so basically take your time. We have the time. The coronavirus has basically said to all of us, slow down, pause, pay attention. We're all learning a lot of stuff right now that we didn't know before about ourselves, about our overwhelm, about our overcommitment, about how fast we're going, how much we weren't taking care of ourselves, our self-care, maybe not spending as much time with our spouse. I know you're spending more time with your wife. And, for some people that's kind of, oh no, this is too hard. For other people, it's like, oh yes, this is finally great. So it all depends, but we're learning so much. So use this time valuably for your own personal growth and development.
Yeah, what I'm taking from what you're saying is that people are now in the negative. Their income is lower, their fear is higher, their anxiety is higher, and they want to get to zero. They want to break even. They want to get out of this plague alive. And
Mhm.
what you're saying is you don't want them to get out just alive. You don't want them to go from negative to zero. You want them to go from negative to positive. You want them to hit the ground running when this plague is over. Then you don't want them to just be standing still wondering, what do I do now? You want them to already be prepared and go for it even before the plague is over. There's lots of ways to make money online.
Yeah. Just to give you a couple of examples of people that pivoted very, very quickly. And this word pivot's really important. I was doing a webinar with a friend of mine during this about a week ago, and he put up a poll. He said, how many of you have pivoted and are doing things now to make money differently during this pandemic? And about 27% said yes. And then
Ah,
the next question was, how many of you are frozen doing nothing? 73% said, I'm doing nothing. They didn't know what to do. They're just sitting there going like, I don't know what to do.
wow.
Most people, Raymond, are not used to being creative and proactive. They get into the habit of what Joe Dispenza says, the habit of being yourself, the habit of getting up, going to work, doing my rote behavior as an employee, or maybe I'm a hairdresser. I show up, I open up my shop. Now I can't do that. I can't touch people, or they're not supposed to. So what can you do differently? Well, just a couple examples. One guy with a restaurant, which is one of the easier ones, but most restaurants didn't do this for weeks. The day he heard there was going to be a shutdown, before it even happened, he ordered 1,000 takeout boxes, basically told his staff, we're going to minimize the staff. We're going to rotate. So you all have a job. You're going to come in. We're going to make 60 or 70 meals a day. We're going to have a defined pickup time where people drive up, we run out, we give them their bag, 6:30, 7, 7:30, and 8. There's a fixed menu. Every day it's different. There's no substitutions. I don't care if you're a vegan, then go somewhere else. And he normally was serving 40 meals a night. Now he's serving 60 meals a night. He's making more money during the coronavirus pandemic than he was before. And his life's gotten simpler. And he's starting to think, maybe I should do it. And he's giving wine pairings. He's telling you what wines go with it, no choices, take it or leave it. And he's like simplifying his whole system. Another guy had a gym. You go, well, got a gym. People have to come to the gym. They can't social distance. He said, well, I've got all this equipment. It's just sitting here. Why don't I rent the equipment to the people that used to be my customers? I'll sanitize it. I'll take it to their homes. They pay a rental fee. He's making more money on the rental fees than he was on the memberships that he had when they
That's
were.
amazing.
Yeah, there's a patio store company. They sell patio furniture. And he said, the biggest problem with people when they come in, they never bring their measurements. They don't know how big their deck is, how far is it from their barbecue to the wall. He said, we get online with them like we're online now. They turn their computer around. They show me their deck. We're on Zoom. We go out, they take out their measurements. We measure it. We say this, I show them the fabrics. They say, great. And he said, and here's my USP. He said, you're not going on vacation in June. Forget it. Nobody's getting on the plane. You're all going to be too scared. You're going to be hanging out in your backyard on your patio or your deck. So let's make that a really wonderful place. Take the money you would have spent on the vacation. Let's spend it on upgrading your patio furniture. And you can have the umbrellas and this, all that stuff. We will come. You're inside. We won't touch you. We'll install it all. Good to go. And I can tell you 20 other stories like that because I've been collecting them, because you have to get creative and realize, how can I serve people? If you're coming from fear, you're coming from, the world's not serving me the way it used to. If you're coming from service, you're going, how can I serve my clients, my customers, or new people that I'm not even talking to in a greater way? So every one of us is doing different things to serve people. Some of it, we do it for free because we want to be of service. So when people come out of this, they look at us and they go, oh, Raymond did some great things for me during that. I'm going to be a loyal person for him. He gave me value. Gary Vaynerchuk's jab, jab, right hook, in other words, give value, then you can sell something. Well, right now it's called jab, 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 right hook. We have to do a little more of that. So all of us, including you and me, are doing lots of free webinars and seminars and summits and things like that to give value to people. And some people are charging. Dawson Church, who you and I know, has developed this wonderful echo meditation that if you do it 7 days in a row, we know that your immunoglobulins in your bloodstream and your saliva go up by 113%, which would be valuable to have right now. So he's doing a weekend virtually. Everyone's going to come in by Zoom, the 2-day workshop, which you normally would do live, and everyone's going to pay about a third of the price they would normally pay. So he's still charging, but he's giving away for much less than before. And people can spend a weekend learning and going through a transformational experience instead of being at home, being bored, watching the third rerun of Breaking Bad.
Jack, I've got another one for you to collect. A
What's
friend of
that?
mine, her name is Lisa. She
Mhm.
knows that all companies are empty right now. There's no employees in the companies.
Right.
So she sent an email out and she did Facebook Lives and just promoted as much as possible. She said, "This is the best opportunity to clean your high tech equipment."
Ah,
And she made up some giant price. And she said, "Just let me have your key. You can have somebody check me while I'm there. So don't take anything. And I'll clean your high tech equipment." She got inundated with orders, inundated. All she did is go to Walmart and buy a spray can of Lysol. And she just walks around spraying all the high tech equipment and cleaning it. She's not an expert in it. She's got no credentials in it. She's just spraying high tech equipment, making a fortune.
yeah, I've heard another woman that just contacted a lot of companies and said, "Let me come in and just do deep cleaning." You know, the kind of thing that, your housekeeper comes in once a week and cleans all the toilets and everything. Said, "We'll just make it spick and span. We'll sanitize everything," and she's got business as well. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. A lot of people are selling stuff on eBay just to get money. So one woman I know, she said, "I'll pick it up from your house and I'll take it to the UPS. I'll package it correctly so it ships safely, and you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to leave your home." So there's a lot of business opportunities for people that are willing to think about what do people need and how can I serve them.
Jack, I think that the reason you're so excited about these stories is because there's another benefit to your Success Principles Workbook that you may not have thought of exactly. And that is, yes, they'll learn the 17 principles and they'll not only learn it, they'll get into the habit of it. But I bet you there's another benefit, and that is enhanced creativity, enhanced excitement,
Yeah.
increased self esteem. So they might go out and do something that they think is unrelated to the specific chapters of your workbook, but it
Yes.
came from how they felt better about themselves.
Yes. Yes. And this is, I'll just say one more thing since we're just talking on, is that right now is the best time in the planet ever to be doing things that raise your vibration. That would include meditation. That would include movement, like dance, having fun. I know a lot of people like, JJ Virgin and Vivian Glick, they're
Yep.
putting on a virtual dance party where they've hired a DJ. All these people are signing up to come online with them, and they're going to have the DJ play music. Everyone's going to have their computers facing into them. They're all going to be dancing. All the pictures will be up on the screen, and they'll be having fun. And it's no different than those virtual. You've been to those silent discos where everyone has earphones on, and no one can hear the music that anyone, but you're dancing around. And if you just look without the earphones on, it looks really weird. But people are saying, let's get together and do social things online. I think we're going to see a lot more of that kind of thing happening too. I mean, someone could probably make a business out of that at some point.
Let me tell you what my wife, as you know, is a competitive dancer, and she
Yeah.
has a dancing coach, and they get together once or twice a week and they dance together. And when the coronavirus came, they can't dance because they can't touch. But if you can't touch, you can't dance. He came up with the idea of a Zoom class. And I said, "Are you nuts? You can't dance by Zoom. It's absurd." And Karen said it was the best class she ever had because it was the first time in 20 years that she's been using the same dance teacher. It's the first time he's ever seen her dancing. He can only feel her and
Ah,
imagine what she's doing, but he
ah,
could see her whole body from the Zoom, and he could correct her on something that he hadn't noticed for 20 years.
isn't that cool?
It's
That
like
is so
totally
cool.
cool. The world is all new. I wonder if hotels are ever going to be needed again, or hotel meeting rooms.
Well, I think they will. Someone asked me that question. What do you think is the future of the speaking business? And you and I know there's something palpable about being in a room with 50 to 100 to 1,000 other people who are all thinking the same thoughts, getting excited, being motivated. And you and I know I use a lot of cartoons, and so do you. I don't know if you've watched any of these late shows where the comedian's sitting on their couch at home saying funny things,
Oh,
and without an audience laughing, they kind of fall dead.
yes.
And so, and then breaking people into pairs. Well, we can do that on a Zoom call, but there's something about being with people, touching, having our two biomagnetic fields coming together and amping each other up, our auras, we call it,
Right.
Uh, and I don't think that's going to disappear. I think we'll see a little less of that. Companies will start to realize, hey, I can bring in Raymond or Jack and have them motivate my troops, and I can have them all in their auto dealerships wherever they are around the country. They don't have to pay. I don't have to pay for their hotel rooms to come to Michigan to do that. So I think you'll see more of that, but I don't think you'll see the cessation of live events at all.
I want to get back to the Success Principles Workbook, and
Yes,
I
thank you.
want you to reveal your favorite. I know there's 17 that are the important ones, but I want your favorite.
I think it has to be the number one thing in the book. It's the most confrontive. It's called Take 100% Responsibility for Your Life
Yeah.
and Your Results. And it basically says you have to give up all complaining, all blaming, and all excuse making. And as you may remember, because I've shared with you in your seminars, that W. Clement Stone, who was my first mentor, who was a co-authored 2 books with Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, he interviewed me when I was my first day at his foundation working. He said, do you take 100% responsibility for your life? And I said, I think so. He said, it's a yes or no answer, son. Think deeply. I was like in 22 or something. And so I said, well, I think so. He said, well, that's not going to work. Have you ever blamed anybody? Yeah. Complained? Yeah. Have you ever made excuses? Yes. You're not taking 100% responsibility. So he taught me about 100% responsibility. And what I learned from that was when you don't take 100% responsibility, you're in the belief system that something outside of you is controlling all or some of your life, whether it's God or the pandemic that we're going through right now. And it's not, it's our response to those things that are controlling our life. And so I teach this formula, E plus R equals O. There's an event. Right now we have the pandemic. The economy is going down for a lot of people. The stock market has gone down for a lot of people. Some people are sequestered in their homes. Some people are dealing with relatives who are sick. So there's a lot of events, which we don't particularly prefer, but that's just the way the world is. And now we have to respond to that in a way that's going to produce outcomes we like. Every outcome that you're currently experiencing is a result of a response to an earlier event. Someone puts a chocolate cake in front of you, you eat it. The response is you gain 1/3 of an ounce and your brain loses brain cells because of sugar and all the stuff that happens. If someone else goes, no, I'm not eating sugar right now, then they don't put on the weight, their brain is clearer, they don't get as much acne, they don't get diabetes, all kinds of things happen. I give you a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year. You go, whoopee, and you go to Vegas and you spend it all and you have a great time. I give someone else that 10,000. They don't spend it, they invest it, and then a year later they've got 12,000. So again, different response, different outcome. So what we found is that the successful people think differently about events. They respond differently. They behave differently. They say different things to themselves. I remember I was doing I think it was 2008. We had the big recession. And right when that started, I was doing a talk for all the RE/MAX franchise owners of New England. And everyone was down about 50%. Most people in our business, Raymond, as you remember, were down about 40%. That was pretty much the norm across the business. So that was the average across the country. There was one guy there who was up. He was not down in the whole room. And everyone knew it. And we talked about it. So I said, I forget his name. I'm going to say Frank, just for the sake of talk. So I said, Frank, come up here. Everyone's down, you're up. So we're talking about E plus R equals O, thoughts and behaviors. So let's talk about your thoughts. Are you thinking differently than everybody else? He said, yeah. Everybody's telling themselves there's a recession, we're going to lose money, people aren't going to buy houses. My self-talk is I always do well no matter what the economy's doing. So that his self-talk was different. I said, well, what are you doing differently? He said, everyone else is laying people off. They're buying fewer advertisements. I'm spending more money on advertising. I'm running seminars. There was a woman I met during that period of time who later was on the cover of the Realtor magazine for Northern California. And it turns out what she had done during the recession is she had started running workshops for women on how to buy your first home. Wow. Single moms, Silicon Valley, people in their 20s and 30s that were not married yet, et cetera. Now, no one was buying homes, but she's running this workshop on what you have to do to buy your home, because most people have no idea. They don't know how to find a mortgage broker. They don't know how much money you need for down payment. Can you negotiate? How do you look for a realtor? So she taught them all that. As soon as the recession ended, guess who had all these women coming to her wanting to buy homes? Because she had made it in their mind, this is something I can do. So she, again, did not let the event called the recession affect her outcome, because she had a different response. So basically, that chapter, when you really get it, as Michael Beckwith, who's another member of our TLC group, Transformational Leadership Council, said, there's 4 stages of spiritual growth. The first stage is victim. You think the world's doing it to you. Why, God, did you take my grandmother? Why, God, did I lose my job? You know, it's like, I'm this poor victim. Why were my parents alcoholics? The second stage is you realize that there are these universal laws, like the law of attraction, the law of reciprocity, you know, that if you meditate and visualize and do affirmations, set goals, all these things work. Then you begin to go, wow, I can manipulate the universe with these principles. Now you go into the second stage, which he calls the manipulator. You got laws, you manipulate them, you get successful. Same thing's true in finance. There are laws of finance. If you play the stock market correctly, you know what you're doing, like Ray Dalio does, then you're going to get rich. Warren Buffett proved it. Now, the third stage is you go and you say, oh my gosh, there are all these laws. Is there something behind these laws? Is there a greater force in the universe? Maybe we could call it the lawmaker. We could call it God, source energy, universal intelligence. Maybe I should surrender to it instead of my ego. And that's when we begin to say things like, I'm going to follow my inner guidance. I'm going to trust my inner voice. I'm going to say, not my will, but thy will. And I'm going to meditate and ask for guidance. If you're a Christian, you do it with prayer. If you know, or Jewish, whatever. If you're an atheist, you just say, I trust my intuition. And then the last stage is you go, wow, I'm actually part of that force. I'm part of the life force of the universe, the intelligence. So I am God. Am I all of God? No more than a drop of water is all of the ocean, but it is ocean. It's just a part of it. So that's the path we're all on. Most people are in the victim stage. So that first chapter, if you will, and all the exercises in there that take you through so that it's not just an intellectual construct. You go, wow, I did those exercises that Jack, had in his book. And I really get now, I did create that event. I wasn't a victim. I did set it up. I see now where I was getting payoffs for being sick or for being, a pain in the butt to my wife. There was some payoff I was getting. Now I realize that I can get that payoff in a better way that's not self-destructive, and I can move on and create what I want. So that's why that chapter and that principle is my favorite, because it is the foundation. It's like building a tower on sand. If you don't have a lot of cement at the bottom, it's all going to just sink and fall over.
Well, I have another example for you of your amazing cause, the total responsibility. And that is when my wife was the CEO of a high-end wheelchair company, they were selling wheelchairs for $1,000 when, if you're a hospital or an airport or an airline, you could buy the ordinary collapsible wheelchairs for $160. The problem is they wear out after a few months. So actually paying $1,000 for a good one is actually a better deal, but it's hard to sell that. Mm-hmm. She had about 6 salespeople, and one woman, Jennifer, was not only the top salesman every single month. There were some months in which she outsold all 5 others combined. Mm-hmm. So I interviewed her. Jennifer, what is it? How do you do it? Are you taller, more good looking, more educated? What the heck is it? And she said, I'm the only one who thinks that our wheelchairs are not priced high enough. All the other 5 beg Karen for discounts, to give a discount to land a client. Yep. She says, no, let me charge more and let me share the increased profit with you. Because she had that extra idea that it's such a good deal. It's inexpensive. And the others thought it was expensive. She oversold everybody.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting about what you did? You demonstrated another success principle.
Oh, tell me.
Which is find out who the outliers are, and then study them, and then learn what they do, and then do that. I was working for a company called Solar Optical Company. I was a keynote speaker for their sales conference. And I went early and I hung out with some of the people before the conference started. And I said, you know who the top 4 salespeople are? Everybody knew. Same, it was 2 men and 2 women. Everybody knew their names. It's kind of like saying, do you know who's running for president of the United States? Yeah, Bernie and Joe, you know, whatever, and Donald. So basically, that evening, I said, how many of you, and they all were doing like, not like 10% more, but like, you know, 100% more, 200% more, 400% more. And it wasn't because they had the bigger territory like New York or something. It was just, they were just outliers. And so I said to the group at night, I said, do you all know who the top 4 people are in the company in terms of sales? Everyone, I said, yell out their names. Everyone yelled out the same names. I said, how many of you have ever gone up to them and said, let me buy you a drink or buy you lunch and let me drill you about what it is you do that's different than what I'm doing? Not one hand went up. Not one hand went up. And then I took a risk. I turned to the company's president, who I knew was in the first row. And I said, have you ever had any of them stand up and present at your conferences? And they said, no. I said, isn't it interesting? Here you have the 4 people who know how to do this better than anyone else. Everyone's afraid to go up and ask them. I said, why haven't you gone up and asked them? And they said, well, they might say no. They might not want to tell me. You know, fear of rejection is huge. But the fact is that you have to study. Like right now with the coronavirus, where is it that the fewest people are getting sick? Let's figure out what they're doing differently. You know, in South Korea, they had these drive-through testing sites and made it really available to people. They planned early enough to do it. So always be looking and that's what I did with the success principles. Who are the successful outliers? Who are the 1%, the 2%, the 3%? And find out what are they doing differently than everybody else. And it's teachable, it's learnable. This is not something you have to have an enlightenment experience or a certain DNA that, you know, you were first over on the Mayflower or whatever. I don't know what people think they have to do. But if little Jackie Canfield from Wheeling, West Virginia, whose dad made $8,000 a year when I was a kid, 8 with 3 zeros, who graduated from college in the half of the class that made the top half possible. I mean, anybody can be successful. If I can learn it, you can learn it.
Yes. And I do the same thing with you, Jack. I bring you into my clients many times. I love having you as my speaker because I and my clients look up to you and we learn from you. And it's wonderful. And also the comment that you made about those 4 top salespeople, you and I know darn well, they would love to tell the rest of the salespeople how they do it. The
Yeah.
people who are at the top want to share.
Yeah. I remember, you know who Les Brown is?
Of course.
Very motivational speaker. And I was at the National Speakers Association, and Les and I have been friends forever. We used to say we went from local obscurity to national obscurity right before everybody's eyes when we were becoming famous. But anyway, we were meeting at this conference and he said, come here. And he pulls out a check. And the check was for like this ridiculous amount, like 300,000, 800,000. I don't know what it was. It was from PBS. And he had done a PBS special. And they, you know, you have those things where they sell packages to get you to, you know, to donate money and you get spiffs and all this stuff. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And he said, yeah. And I said, how'd you do that? And he told me. And I said, you're telling everyone how you did it? He said, yeah, none of them will ever do it.
It's shocking, isn't it?
It's hard. So Mark Victor Hansen and I were giving a talk at that same conference. My wife at the time was sitting in the back row, Georgia. You remember Georgia?
I do.
Sitting in the back row. And Mark and I were talking. We had this thing, 27 things you need to do to have a bestseller. And we're going through them one at a time. And this guy in the back row turns to my ex-wife, not knowing that she was my ex-wife and my wife at the time. And he says, there's no way I would ever do all that. And she turned to him and said, and that's why they're best-selling authors, and you probably never will be. It's like, you know, so people are not afraid to share how they got successful because they know most people will not take the time to actually do it. So you have to see, we were talking about knowing that the wheelchairs were worth the price, that were worth more. John Maxwell, that great leadership guru, has never discounted a fee for anything in his life, ever. And it's not that he doesn't care about people. What he discovered is that if people don't have skin in the game, they don't do the work. So if I charge people $15,000 for a coaching program, they show up on time, they read the homework assignments, they do the homework challenges, they're ready to go because they put a lot of money into the game, they're gonna get their money's worth. If I give it to someone for free, it's like maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, because it didn't cost me anything. So I
Right.
don't have any investment. So
Right.
commitment comes with investment. And so when you invest money into something, think about the stocks you've invested the most money in. Those are probably the ones you go and look at on the stock exchange every morning. How are they doing?
You know what I do in that case? I have several programs that are worth $3,000 to $10,000 that lots of people like, and the word is out that they really work. And I had some family members who wanted to join, and I said, "Oh my God, you're family members, of course!" And then they didn't do anything. So I made it a policy that for family members, I charge $19. Jack, $19 for like a $10,000 program, and every one of them said, "Nah, no thanks." $19.
Well,
They,
some people are ready to grow and they're committed
yeah,
to their growth, and some people are not. I always tell people, look, if you're happy with the way things are, God bless you. Stay at home, do whatever you do, whether it's drink your beer, watch TV till midnight. I don't care. Or maybe you meditate all day and chants and makes the world a better place because you're a positive person. But this is not for people who are satisfied. We know that 80% of people in North America don't love their jobs. They would rather be doing something else. 80%. We know
huge.
that 50% of people in their marriages are not satisfied with their marriages. We know that most people would rather be healthier and have more aliveness and more energy than they do. Most people want to live longer than most of their actuarial tables tell them they're going to if they keep their current dietary and lack of exercise practices going. So this is a program for people who want more. I always say, if you want more of anything, this program will help you get that.
So you say double your income and double your time off, but it's way more than that. It's double
Yeah,
your happiness, double the quality of your relationship with your spouse, your parents, your kids.
yeah.
It's half your waist size.
Really, really. No, it's double your flavor, double your fun. Remember juicy fruit commercials? Anyway, the point is this. There are 7 areas of your life we cover in the book. There's finances, job and career, there's relationships, there's health and fitness, there's what we call fun and recreation, because most people are not having as much fun and recreation as they want. Like your wife's doing dancing lessons. I know you do all kinds of things for fun. You take vacations and have things with your kids, and you're always doing creative things. I love it. Um, and then there's what we call personal, which is personal growth, spiritual growth, and then things you want to do, like climb Mount Pichu, go to the Great Wall of China, not the best destination at the moment, but
Right.
eventually open again. And also possessions you want to own. What kind of car? I mean, you've owned a plethora of exotic vehicles over the time I've known you. You've had fun with that. And then you live in a great apartment. We can see part of it right now with all the artwork you have and so forth. And then the last thing is contribution. What contribution you want to make? So we look at and we take you through all 7 of those areas of your life. So you have a balanced, fulfilled, meaningful, contributive life. And basically you can double whatever it is or half your body size if you want to lose weight, whatever, in all of those areas. So I just said double your income, double your time off, because it's the thing most people right now want to do. Most people have all that time off right now, but they're not doubling their income. So there's ways to go about doing that.
Jack, I've always admired you, and I love you. And I said at the beginning, I feel like you're my brother. And I love all the times that we've been playing together, and I've really enjoyed this interview. And I implore all my wonderful clients who are listening to this, the Success Principles Workbook is a real tool. It's not, I mean, the Success Principles book is great, but as Jack said, some people read it and grabbed it and took a hold of it. And some people read it and said, wow, I learned a lot, and they put it on the shelf and actually didn't do anything. But this workbook is a giant step forward in Jack's effort to make sure that you get the value from the wisdom that he has. It's Jack's clever idea of how to have a greater chance of having those ideas and habits be inside of you as opposed to just enjoyed reading it. So I really appreciate, I didn't know the value of your workbook when I first heard that you had written a workbook. I wondered why you were doing a workbook. And now I'm really, really impressed. I'm really, really impressed. Now I wonder why everyone doesn't write workbooks, but maybe you'll create the trend. Maybe they will be doing it. I
Yeah.
love the examples that you gave during this interview. I love that you and I, by the way, are also collecting genius things that people are doing because you and I, all the services that we offer, all the products that we offer, they came from our mind. We didn't just pick them up off the street. They came from our mind. First of all, at first we might have thought they were silly or impractical, but then we worked on them and we cleaned it up and we talked to our staff and they forced us to make it better and better. And then we offer it, and that's what people love about us. And so what you have impressed upon our listeners is that they can do that too. They don't have to just sit at home, watch television. They don't have to moan and complain. They can actually grab this as an opportunity. Do you know that the 30 stocks of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, almost half of them started during the Great Depression? Did you know that? Almost half of the 30 started during the Great Depression, because that's the time of change. That's the time of opportunity. When things are normal, it's hard to kind of break in. But now nothing's normal. There's all kinds of opportunities to break
Right.
in. And if you can do it on your own, great. Or if you're happy where you are, great. But if you want the enormous help of a workbook that actually moves you forward, the Success Principles Workbook, we're filming this on April 1st, which is the first day. I'm honored that I'm interviewing my friend Jack on the first day that his workbook is out. But when you're enjoying this, it might be not the first day, but it's still available. But by the time you buy it, it will hopefully be a giant runaway bestseller so that Jack can help lots of people like you dramatically improve your life in however you want to improve it.
Let me give people some contact information. If you buy the book by going to thesuccessprinciplesworkbook.com, it'll lead you either to Barnes & Noble or to Amazon.com or booksamillion.com, buy like you would normally do it. But also you'll get a couple of bonuses. One is a 10-week video class that I'm offering that people will get dripped out once a week. And then there's also, I'm doing a master class where for 90 minutes, I'm teaching from the workbook
Oh,
actual exercises and concepts through for 90 minutes. It's called the Success Principles Masterclass. And you'll have access to that either live if you sign up right away, or if it's already occurred, if you're watching this later, you'll be able to get the replay of that. And also you'll be able to download the first chapter of the book immediately as a digital download, so you can start reading. It's the one we talked about, 100% responsibility. And also there are a couple other things that are available there as well. Or you can go straight to Amazon.com or whatever you want to do. But if you want to get those bonuses, just go to thesuccessprinciples.com, the Success Principles Workbook.com, and you'll be able to do it there.
the Success Principles Workbook.com, and you get this huge host of freebies from Jack.
Yeah,
Wow.
and they're not just superficial things. They're really useful things.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We would expect nothing else.
Well, sometimes I get these downloads that people do. There's like 50 bonuses, and I don't even have room on my desktop to download them all, and then you never listen to them because they're not all that important. But anyway, these are valuable. They'll help you actually use the workbook.
So Jack's suggestion and mine is the Success Principles Workbook.com. That will allow you to go through to Amazon and purchase it, but also you get all the other bonuses. So you might as well go to Jack's website first.
Yeah.
Wonderful. There it is. May that be in your bookshelf soon. May many of my clients become your workbook purchasers and dramatically improve their life.
Thank you. And to all of you, thank you for this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you.